This is Lisa from Mobile Tech Review, and this is the Samsung Galaxy Book 3 Pro 360. A lot of parts of that name, aren't there, for 2023. So this is their higher end 360-degree convertible, as you might have guessed from the name. 16 inches, which is the new 15.6, right? And happily, we have an AMOLED or OLED display on board of 3K resolution. So that's nice. You know, a couple of generations ago, the convertible Galaxy books that I love so much, with S Pen included in the box, no extra charge, by the way, they would always be stuck at full HD resolution. So yay, 3K, 2880 by 1800 resolution. Again, S Pen included in the box, no extra charge. Touchscreen, obviously. A couple of other improvements for one of the few S Pen or Wacom EMR tablet PC style pen options that we have, particularly appealing to discerning note takers and artists. We're going to look at it now. Of course, when you're buying that new device, and we primarily cover hardware, software is an important consideration, which comes to our video sponsor, trendmicro Premium Security Suite. So they're going to keep your devices safe. And the nice thing is, one subscription covers 10 different devices. And it does Macs, it does PCs, desktops, laptops, also your tablets, iPad, Android tablet, your phones, Android and iOS again. So it is antivirus, lightweight, and that part's good, and malware prevention and all that sort of thing. But even better, it's also a password manager. So you've got several different services rolled in without having to have multiple subscriptions. So you've got the password manager, you have a VPN, so say you're out on public Wi-Fi and you want to keep yourself safe, you have dark web monitoring, so just in case your information's floating around out there. And you have parental guards too for your children's devices. Be sure to check out the link in the description to save. And now back to our video. So the hallmarks for updates and all the good stuff here, obviously Intel 13th generation processors, 28-watt processors. So in the Ultrabook category, but the more powerful version of the Ultrabook processor. In the United States, it looks like it's just the Core i7 option. I believe overseas there may be a Core i5 option as well. We have a bigger trackpad. I really don't know why trackpads need to be this big. Obviously, Apple started, but it's 39% bigger than last generation. Obviously, we have that 16-inch display, 16 by 10 aspect ratio, 120 hertz, which is quite nice. And though we get an ample size S Pen, no skinny hand crampy toothpick anymore, there's no silo for it. Obviously, probably because they decided you might want a bigger, more pen-sized pen, and there's no way to make room for it in today's super thin and light laptop. Speaking of which, obviously it's quite thin, and it's also pretty light at 3.66 pounds, which is 1.66 kilograms. Now, for a 16-inch laptop, that's pretty light. If you are getting this for art, obviously you're going to put it on your lap, on your legs, on a table, because that would be a big, heavy sketchbook to hold up. Build quality is lovely on this, as ever. It's aluminum design, and hallmark of Samsung's laptops is might be skinny, but you still get ports on board. So you have two Thunderbolt 4 ports. One of them we use for the very compact USB-C fast charger that's included. Looks much like the higher end charger you can get for a Galaxy Ultra and so on. You've got an USB-A port, thank goodness, so no dongle life. HDMI port, headphone jack, of course, and a micro SD card slot, which is still important to content creators. Upgradability of this, well, we'll take a look at the internals, but it's an Ultrabook. Don't expect too much about replaceable parts and upgradable parts and all that sort of thing. The star of the show for sure is that display. It is a gorgeous OLED display, and at that higher resolution, nobody's going to be looking at individual pixels easily. And it stands apart from the Galaxy Book 3 360 non-Pro edition, which is still available in the 13.3 and the 15.6 inch sizes with a full HD resolution. So, sweet that. Again, it would be lovely for art. Two caveats here. One of them, oh boy, it's glary. This is a very glossy display. So, okay, you set it up at the right angle, you don't work under bright lights, you can manage that. The other thing is it's also a very slippery display, which is, it takes away from the experience if you're using this for art, or even note-taking, to be honest. But particularly I'm focusing on this for art because I have with the many Galaxy Book with S Pens I reviewed in the past, and that pen just wants to go sliding, so I feel like I've lost the precision. The good news is the S Pen is that Wacom EMR tablet PC pen technology that has just gone missing from most laptops anymore. They're all using Entrig or Microsoft Pen Protocol or Wacom AES, which isn't as precise, isn't as great with the pressure level sensitivity, and particularly with the diagonal lines, the smooth diagonal lines you get with this. So if you're doing precision artwork or you're very picky about your note-taking too, or you're diagramming, it's a lovely experience. So get a matte screen protector. It'll detract a little bit from the stunningness of the OLED display, but it'll help with that. One more thing about the display, Samsung Settings has a variety of settings that you can apply to the laptop. They made it look sort of like a Samsung Galaxy phone at this point, but the display settings are worth visiting because the default is dynamic for the color, and goodness knows it just goes all over the place. It can change. You know, if you're not caring about color accuracy or anything, I guess you could set it at Vivid AMOLED, but we tested it in the DCI P3 settings because it's supposed to be full P3, which high-end laptops always are these days, and that's nice. And the other thing is enable HDR10+. That increases the overall brightness and thus the contrast some more. So while it measured only around 314 nits of brightness in the default settings out of the box, once we turn on HDR10+, it went up to over 400 nits of brightness, which is a good thing without sacrificing color accuracy. So yay that. The white point changed a little bit. It's 7300 in HDR10+ versus the more desirable, typically speaking, 6700 for those of you who are into your display calibrations. You know what I'm talking about, but just use HDR10+. It looks much nicer. The blacks are lifted so you see more gradations in the dark tones, which is what you would like to see from an OLED display. You get the idea. Obviously, it's not an HDR 1000 display. This is not going to compete with high-end TVs, but boy, it looks nice when you're watching 4K content or 2K content or 1080p content, whatever it is. The colors are just nice, 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 and the contrast. And the dark scenes look great with HDR10. Okay, a lot of time spent with that, but I think it's pretty important for your enjoyment potentially of it. In terms of performance, you're looking at Intel 13th generation processors with Intel Iris Xe graphics. If you're hankering for a Samsung laptop with dedicated graphics, namely low wattage NVIDIA RTX 4050 or 4070 graphics, there's the new Galaxy Book, the Ultra model. But that one doesn't have a pen and it's not convertible, so keep that in mind. Anyway, its performance is quite good on this. If you're doing this for 2D artwork, you're going to be using it for Photoshop and obviously business productivity, streaming, all those things, even some pretty powerful Excel spreadsheet jockeying and all that sort of thing. It's got more than enough horsepower. It's got 2 fans inside. It does not get hot. It does not get loud. So good that. It's perfectly adequate for most things unless you're a 3D artist or a gamer. I mean, you can cloud game on this, obviously, using NVIDIA or Microsoft services, but you know what I mean. RAM is soldered on board with this. Again, we will take a look at the internals, but yeah, you can't upgrade it after the fact. It ships with 16 gigs of RAM. That's what you got. DDR5. All day, all night. The SSD, you can get it with 512 gigabyte or 1 terabyte SSD. And the speeds on ours were okay, not class leading, but Samsung never goes whole hog with these with the SSD performance because I think they see them as ultrabooks and not gaming laptops, I suppose. You got Wi-Fi 6E on board. You have a fingerprint scanner embedded in the power button, which I found to be a little bit finicky. Maybe because it's cold and it's winter and my hands typically are cold. I don't know. There's no facial recognition Windows Hello login. It's just the fingerprint scanner. And it wouldn't be Samsung if there wasn't a lot of Samsung apps on board, right? This is sort of like a Galaxy phone at this point. So you can see the list there. If you're a fan of all the Samsung software, you'll be happy. If you're not a fan, well, uninstall them. What can I tell you? You'll want to keep that Samsung Settings app and the Samsung Update app. Their new Note Shelf, which is Note Shelf Samsung instead of Samsung Note Shelf, you might miss it, is actually pretty nice. It has lots of templates. I mean, check that out. You've got musical staffs, you've got guitar tab, you've got day planners, you've got therapist templates. I'm not a therapist. I don't even know what that would be, but you get the idea. So it's pretty nice that they have that sort of thing on board. You don't have to buy any third-party software to get going with that. Obviously, you can use OneNote. We tested with OneNote. Pen works fine and all that sort of thing as well. Now, if you do own a Samsung phone and Samsung Galaxy Buds and all that sort of thing, you know, they're mimicking what Apple does in a way, but they don't have the huge ecosystem of users, I guess, really to have the same impact with it. But it can communicate with your phone easily, transfer files, all that sort of thing, automatically connect to Buds 2 that you've already paired to your Samsung phone. So basically it's about seamless pairing and data transfer with your phone. So nice if you happen to have a lot of Samsung products, right? We have a 76 watt-hour battery, which is bigger than the non-Pro 360 models because, well, it is a bigger footprint chassis. There's room for that. So that's pretty good for an Ultrabook with integrated graphics. I mean, when you do have a 3K OLED display, that's going to be sucking up some power there. But doing productivity work, I typically, on the balanced power mode with brightness set to 200 nits, I typically got about 8 hours on a charge, which isn't too bad. And you get the world's most compact laptop charger in the box, which helps a little too. Take off the bottom cover of this aluminum-clad laptop. Well, you got to pull off the rubber feet. That's not really so hard. Just find something thin or maybe your fingernail and pull them off. Then there's 4 Phillips head screws. Not so hard. The plastic clips on this thing, oh my goodness, they're obnoxious. So work your way around the laptop. Start from around a hinge and go around like so. And eventually you'll get it off. And that's what the underside looks like. Obviously, for the fans over here, we have openings right on that. And there are the internals. Battery over here, 76 watt hour. We got stereo speakers here. That's why there are grills on the side. 8KG branded quad stereo speakers. Pretty good sound. Not a lot of bass because it's a thin laptop, you know, but Samsung punches above their weight with speakers and laptops. I'm not complaining given the dimensions of this laptop. RAM is soldered on, so is the Wi-Fi card right here. It's an Intel Wi-Fi 6E card, so a good card at least. And the only thing you can upgrade is the SSD. There's our 1 terabyte, which ironically is a Western Digital, not a Samsung branded one. It's a good Western Digital SN740, but yeah, often Samsung doesn't use their own parts in their own laptops, which is pretty funny. And we have dual fan cooling, and given the fact we have integrated graphics here, that is more than adequate, and it's probably why it never gets really hot to the touch. So that's the Samsung Galaxy Book 3 Pro 360, the new 16-inch OLED 3K display model with the S Pen included in the box. And boy, it's a fingerprint lover too, by the way, this aluminum chassis. Anyway, still, I have a soft spot for these because of the S Pen. It's just a wonderful experience. It's detracted by the slipperiness of the display, but like I said, find yourself a matte screen protector and put it on there if it bothers you. And that at least helps with that problem, doesn't it? But you're not going to find many big screen drawing, note-taking devices with this lovely screen and this good a pen experience together. Really, I mean, it's in a different category from something like Microsoft Surface Pro 9, isn't it? It's much bigger, for example, and it's a traditional laptop. And that OLED. I'm Lisa from Mobile Tech Review. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel for more cool tech videos, and thumbs up if you like this vid.